Good morning and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our lesson on U.S. addresses and U.S. postal standards for mailing, addressing, and shipping. So, over the last several years, it has been my discovery that the average middle school student struggles with writing an address correctly, and there's not quite an understanding of where elements go or what have you. And so the purpose of this is to not only um, teach how to and inform how to properly fill out an address, but just in case you're ever in a job, right, that requires you to create shipping labels. Maybe that's not on an animated system or automated system, excuse me, on an automated system, you'll be familiar with it. Or when it comes to inputting your address on a document, such as a job application, you'll know what they're looking for, that sort of thing. All right. And the thing is that if you send something by mail, okay, it doesn't have to be a letter, because I understand, hey, we use a lot of electronic information now, right? But if you send something by mail or ship something and you don't put the right address on there, it's going to come back to you, okay? And they're going to be non-deliverable, okay? Or it's going to go to the wrong place in general. So it's a good idea to know how to do this, all right? So let's take a look at what goes on with a standard U.S. address. All right, so the U.S. address postal standards, all right, the delivery address, all right, consists of 3 areas. Not 3 lines, but 3 areas. It might be 3 lines, it might be more. Okay, it depends on the location, it depends on the person you're sending it to or the entity in which you're sending it to. All right, so the first line you have is you have the recipient lines, all right? You have the delivery address lines, and then of course you have city, state, and zip code, and maybe a sub-zip code listed in there, all right? So let's take a look at what the recipient lines might look like. All right, usually, if you're sending something to a residence, okay, you will simply put the person's name, Mr. Cadle, if you will, all right? Or Mr. M. Cadle if you're using my first name, right? Or Mr. John Smith or Mrs. Susan Smith, right? Now, that's fine, and that would fulfill the recipient line. You could even put multiple people in there. If you were writing to, and you didn't know I didn't have a family or not, you could put the Cadle family, okay, and that's fine. You could put Mr. and Mrs. Cadle, and that's fine if you choose to do that, okay? So you get the idea there, okay? But you would always put the recipient line there, and it would be the person's name. Now, in the event that you're sending it to a business, you could simply put the business name in there. All right, my little brother's business is Little John's Car Quest, right? So you could simply put Little John's Car Quest and his name in there, Little John's Car Quest, and then the next set of information. However, if you're sending it to somebody specifically at a business, then you need to take it up another notch, all right? In this case, you can see that this parcel is going to Sue Smith. Sue Smith fulfills the role of president for which business? It's a make-believe business called the Capital Corporation, all right? So it took up 2 recipient lines, all right? So again, the person, title, business, okay? Person, title, business. All right, makes sense. All right, the delivery address lines. All right, we're going to get into more details here, but you can see here that our sample has 1, 2, 3 main ST, not for state, for street, Main Street. STE stands for Suite 3B. Suite 3B, and we'll talk about that here in a few moments. And of course, you got a make-believe town, any town. This says U.S., just saying any town in the United States. You would never use U.S. in there. You would always put an actual state in there, like Georgia or Florida, and we'll talk about how that goes in there. And then, of course, you got your zip code, and if your business has it, a sub-zip code. All righty. So let's take a look at things in more detail here. All right, so again, on your recipient lines, right, you got your proper name and an slash or the title, okay? So if they have a title, you put that in there, okay, for a business, okay? Again, you saw Sue Smith, president, okay? If you were writing to my business on the Mike Entertainment, you would put my name, owner or CEO or whatever you wanted to put in there, right? Or manager or executive or what have you, all right? And that's fine. We'll just get rid of that notice. That was weird. Anywho, So there you go. So you got proper name or title, all right? It might be the business name, all right? You would send it to On the Mic Entertainment if you were sending it to my business, okay? And then this may require 2 or 3 lines, okay, depending on the situation. Now, if you got somebody with a really long name, or maybe a department, okay, like accounting, department of accounting, you might put that in there. You could actually put 3 lines by putting somebody's name. So like you're writing to the accounting department, business name, okay, and then your information next. All right. All right. So let's go to the next slide. All right. The delivery address lines. All right. Now this is the actual address itself. Okay. So usually the delivery address lines will be 1 to 8 digits. I'm sorry. Will be into multiple parts. You got the numbers. Okay. You got the street name, you got the street type, if there is a suite or an apartment, okay, then there you go, all right? Sometimes businesses use post office boxes. That means somebody actually goes to the post office and their mailbox is there and they just use the key to open up their mailbox and pull things out, right? And we'll talk about what that looks like here shortly, right? But we're going to focus on this section right here, the delivery address lines right here, all right? So let's see. If you were sending something to my brother, right, Little John's Car Quest, right, the address is in Live Oak, okay? So he would put 1525. Okay, 1525 is the location, the digits on a street. Okay, 1525. All right. It could be a 1. I've seen 1 Main Street before in Sarasota. There's a building. It's a high-rise condo building called 1 Main Street. All right, and it's actually on the first location of Main Street in downtown Sarasota. So there you go. All right. So it could be up to 8 digits long, especially in larger communities or larger cities or roads that really, really go far out there, okay? You might see these larger street numbers, okay? All right, so 1 to 8 digits long. In the case of my brother's business, 1525. Then you'll have a street name, okay? Then you'll have a street name, all right? My brother's business is located on US 129 in Live Oak. However, the address recognizes US 129 as Ohio Avenue. More specifically, okay, there's an Ohio Avenue North and an Ohio Avenue South. So just in Live Oak itself, after you pass a certain point, it goes from Ohio Avenue North to Ohio Avenue South. Okay, hope that makes sense to you, right? So his address is 1525, as I said earlier, Ohio Avenue North. Okay, Ohio Avenue North or North Ohio Avenue. All right, that's the street name. All right, Ohio is the street name. The street type in his case is avenue. You might have boulevard, you might have lane, you might have road, right? But you want to make sure that you get the right thing in there. Now, you might have a main boulevard and a main street. They are 2 different places, so be aware of that, all right? Because I've been to a city that had a main boulevard and a main street, okay? So you can think of it like that, okay? In fact, I think Lake City has a main boulevard and a main street, all right? So you just got to be aware of that, all right? Let's see here. So the avenue, boulevard, etc. would be the street type, okay? Then you might have a suite or an apartment, okay? If it's a residence, it's going to be in an apartment. If it's a business, it's going to be in a suite. Now, if you don't know what a suite is, think about here in our area, the Publix building, and think about all the businesses that are located next to the Publix building itself. So you got Publix, and then you got a bunch of different little parcels attached to Publix, right? Each one of those represents a suite, okay? So it's a place where the business is located, all right? Some of those businesses take up 2 suites, and that's fine if they choose to do that, but you get the idea. Suite 5, okay? You get the idea. Now, post office boxes are really simple, all right? You might have a business that says write to or send information to P.O. Box 1245, and then you put the city, state, and zip. Super simple, okay? You get the post office box, P.O. Box, a number, right? City, state, and zip. Easy enough, all right? All right, next slide. All right, speaking of city, state, and zip, all right? Let's see here. Really easy, all right? you will always see your city. Okay, in my brother's case, it's Live Oak, 2 words here in our area. Well, you know how to do our area, right? Let's see here. Where I grew up, Sarasota, Bradenton, right? I grew up in Bradenton, right? So it would be Bradenton. And then Sarasota would be Sarasota. You get the idea. New York City would be just simply New York, not New York City. Washington, right? There you go. All right, the city name. All right, spell it out. Don't abbreviate. All right, unless it's abbreviated on the map, don't abbreviate it. Okay, you wouldn't put LC for Lake City. Okay, and then you're going to have the 2-digit state code for the United States. State, okay? Now, when I say 2-digit state code, please don't use U.S. because there is no state called United States, all right? Example, Florida has the FL code. FL, the 2-digit code, capital F, capital L, okay? Georgia has GA, capital G, capital A. New York State has NY. California, CA. You get the idea? All right, let me do a couple more. You got Washington, WA, okay? South Dakota, obviously, SD, right? Virginia, VA, all right? So Alabama, one more. Alabama, AL. So you get the idea there. You use the 2-digit state code. Don't put US in there. This is just for the sample here, but put it somewhere in the United States, right? Then you will have a 5-digit zip code. This will always be included. Because like Lake City, like Live Oak, there might be multiple zip codes attached to a certain city, okay? And so you got to keep that in mind. So you got to get that zip code in there. And then sometimes in bigger locations, you might actually have a sub-zip code. So if I was sending something to Washington, D.C. or New York City or Chicago or something like that, I'd want to make sure that I had the sub-zip code to ensure it got to the right area in the right place quicker. All right. All righty. All right, next slide. Here we go. All right. So let's use some samples here. All right. All right. So say like you wanted to send me something here to Lake City Middle School. All right. You would put my first name, last name in there, right? With the greeting, well, you get the idea. The pronoun there. Mr. Michael Cadle. Pretty simple. Where are you sending it to? Lake City Middle School. All right, there you go. 843 Southwest Arlington Boulevard, Lake City, Florida, 32025. All right, let's work backwards here. All right, you got your zip code. Notice there is no sub-zip code because, well, we're a smaller community. FL, all right, that's for the state of Florida. Notice where the comma goes, right after the city. All right, in this case, Lake City has 2 words, Lake space City, right? If it was in Sarasota, I would put Sarasota, all one word, comma, Florida. You get the idea, all right? Then over here, Boulevard is the street type, okay, street type. Arlington is the name of the street, and then, of course, Southwest is the direction of Arlington. So it's on Southwest Arlington Boulevard. All right, there might be a Northwest. There might be a Southeast. Okay, so make sure you get that in there. And then, of course, the digits for the location is 843. Now, here we have the business name or the entity, Lake City Middle School, and the person who it is going to. All right, let's look at another example. All right, we have a... Let's break this one up, okay? All right, I could tell that Miss Jenna Carlisle works in Suite 5 of that location on Main Street. Okay, Suite 5 of that location. How do I know that? I see it right here, Suite 5, okay? Makes sense. Where is she located? She works in Texas. Workplace in Texas, Arlington. Is Arlington a larger community or a smaller community? Obviously, it's a larger community because I see a sub-zip code there, right? Who does Miss Jenna Carlisle work for? If you're saying Top of the Dial Promotions, that's the name of the company. Very good. And what is her role or position at Top of the Dial Promotions? CEO. All right. So again, you got Miss Jenna Carlisle, CEO, Top of the Dial Promotions. You got 984 Main Street, Suite 5, Arlington, Texas, and then the zip code. All right. I hope that makes things clearer for you, and I hope now that you can now completely fill an address out. Use those samples as you need to. Refer back to the PowerPoint or refer back to this video as needed to help you fill out an address correctly. And look at that. We covered addresses in about 15-ish minutes. All right. Thank you for watching.